All right, so I'm going to do an example of concept mapping to just kind of show you how I do it and kind of the easiest way to do it. So these are the 5 terms that I just came up with now, one from each chapter. And so the first thing I do is take the terms and just put a big box around them and just kind of put them all over. So immune system, water, proteoglycan, dense, irregular connective tissue, and then melanin. Okay, so I just kind of put them all over so I've got a little bit of room. And so then what I do is I don't try and make a master plan, and I think that's where a lot of people are getting stuck. Don't be like, oh my gosh, how am I going to connect these? Just go through each term and write what you know. So what do you know about the immune system? It's for protection from disease, right? And who are the cells for the immune system? They're white blood cells, right? Or leukocytes, okay? And that's really what we know about the immune system. Now, what I always like to do is write down which chapter it came from. Was it chemistry, the cell, a tissue? Is it an organ system? Or, is it a chemical? So this one is an organ system, right? Okay. All right, so then leave that there. That looks great. Okay, so then we get over to water. Think about what we know about water, right? What makes water special? We've talked a million times, high heat capacity, right? It cushions organs. It is a polar molecule. We've talked about that a lot, polar molecule. It is hydrophilic, right? Loves itself. What else do you know about water? It makes up most of our cells and tissues, right? Remember, we're mostly water. It's a huge component of blood we've talked about. Yeah, so those are some special properties of water, okay? And it came from, if you remember, it was at the chemical level, and it was a inorganic molecule, if you remember. Okay, so then we get to proteoglycan. Now that's a tough word, and you'll probably see one, right, on your exam on Monday. Now proteoglycan, you may not remember what it was, but you may remember it was a part of the extracellular matrix, right? In tissues are extracellular matrix plus cells, right? So you know that, okay? And then proteoglycan, if you remember, it was the thing that looks like a little Christmas tree, right? So it makes the ECM firm and fluffy, right? Now say you didn't know that, but you knew the other parts of the ECM, right? You know that there's collagen for strength. You know there's elastin. You know there's reticular fibers, right? Those are the fibers you find. And then you also know that even if you didn't know proteoglycans, you know glycosaminoglycans. Remember those draw in water. And then you also knew glycoproteins, right, are glue. Yeah? And this came from, right, we can talk about this when we talk about cells and also when we talk about tissues. Yeah. So proteoglycans. So even if you don't know this, write the things that you do know about an extracellular matrix, okay? Dense irregular connective tissue. So it's obviously a tissue type. And then we noted that because it's irregular, it's collagen. And what was collagen for? Strength. And irregular is strength in many directions, right? Dense regular is strength in one direction. This is many. And so then where you find it is the dermis of the skin. Yeah, okay. And then go over to melanin. So what's melanin? It's a pigment produced by melanocytes. Oops, melanocytes. And then if you remember, it protects DNA of keratinocytes. And remember, melanocyte is a cell. But where did we find this? We talked about this in tissues. So remember, it's in the epidermis, which is stratified squamous. And that makes up the integument, right? The epidermis and the dermis make up the integument, which is an organ system. Okay, so now when you look at all these things you've got together, then you can start making connections, okay? So for example, if I look at immune, I look at protection. Well, where else do I have protection, right? So the easiest thing is the integument, right? Is for protection, we know that. Protection, yeah? In addition, organ system, the integument is an organ system, and you also have skin over here, right? And that is also for protection. So you just start kind of making lines. White blood cells, okay? Well, white blood cells, where do you find them? Blood, and I remember had blood listed over here. Also, there's cells, right? So where did you write cells down at? You have cells here. You have cells here. Yeah, and those are very just generic terms, right? Okay. Because tissues are made of cells, and those are white blood cells. Okay, so that's going through the immune column. Okay, let's go through the water column. What can we do? We have high heat capacity, cushions organs. So cushioning organs is for protection, right? Polar hydrophilic. Now, we don't have polar, we have polar hydrophilic. Remember that cells and tissues, right, are mostly made of water. So if we can take this water here that we drew in and put it up here. We can also do some other things. So if you come down, you're like, oh, I have nothing else to connect it to. Well, remember that water, the hydroproofing layer of the skin, right? Remember you have that granulosum layer. So if you pull this down here, where do we have? We have epidermis listed down here. So I can put granulosum stratum. And remember, it was hydrophobic because it was lipids. So then what you can do, if you don't have something that exactly matches, you can make opposites, right? This is opposites. And just write that on there for me so I know why you did it, yeah? So you can't make exact matches, remember to do, and I'll write that over here, opposites. Okay? Chemical level, inorganic, you have listed inorganic molecules here. What other inorganic molecules do you know? Well, you know salt, acid, base, right? And then you know organic molecules, yeah? So your organic molecules, you could do, right, carbs, lipids, proteins, right? And you know proteins and carbs, or I'm sorry, lipids and proteins are all part of, remember? The cell, that phospholipid bilayer with big proteins sticking out of it. Those are all part of a cell. So then once again, even if you didn't know this, you knew the opposite of it, you can make a connection to cells, right? Like this. All right, dense irregular connective tissue. Collagen is for strength, right? Strength and protection. Many directions you find it in the dermis of the skin. So you had skin, right, in over here in the integument. So that's a really great connection. Collagen is a protein fiber, right? All right, so 1, 2, 3, you've done those 3. Go through proteoglycans. Firm extracellular matrix, right? Firm or strength. You could put these things together. Collagen, here it is. Collagen, elastin. H2O, you connected back glycoproteins. Proteins, yeah. Perfect. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The last one you have enough is melanin. It's a pigment protein, right? Produced by melanocytes. Melanocytes are cells, so connect it to all your other cell terms. Protects DNA. I see the word protect, and I saw protect up here. Tissues of the epidermis, which is the integument. So epidermis, right? And just write me a note here. Lies above. Okay? Stratified squamous is a tissue, right? So you can connect it to all your other tissue terms, right? Here. And then organ system, we had connected those together. Other things, maybe just take a brief look over it and kind of look through it again. What else can we do? So you can probably draw quite a few things from blood, right? This is a really generic term that could go to some other things. What else do we have? Reticular, what was reticular tissue for? It forms a web, right, for protection. So just write. You can start writing on these lines for me. Web catches things, right? So I kind of understand the connections you're making. And so that's really it. So write down each word and start making connections. Don't try and make a master plan. If you have to, pick opposites. And then chapter generic names. If you have organ system, tissue, cell written down, chemical, those words you're going to be able to tie together really well. So go for opposites, chapter generic names, right? And just what you know about each versus a master plan. Don't make a master plan. Don't look at these and be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? No, write down each word, write what you know, and it's just going to start to flow, okay? Write down what you remember us talking about in class. And for example, if you don't remember something, for example, what a proteoglycan is, but you know what chapter it came from, start writing about the other things you do know. If you don't know about the immune system, but you know some other organ systems, start writing them down here. Endocrine, integument, right? Cardiovascular, and start connecting those. Cardiovascular to blood, right? Show me what you do know. This is your chance to show me what you do know. All right, so hopefully that helps a little bit. It's going to look absolutely crazy when you finish it, but it really helps me understand and see what you really gathered from each chapter, which is the goal here.